it's not just what's going on in crypto. It's what's going on the biggest levels, of which crypto is really in the core uh, of in the center of all of this stuff, because that it's in the center of what's happening with the financial system, and the financial system is obviously collapsing, and they're trying to usurp the whole crypto narrative for the people and just give us a centralized blockchain. So what we've got is really a war between the people and decentralization, a whole restructuring versus the centralization, further centralization, if that's even possible. They're going for the jugular. They're going for the ultimate, trying to herd the masses into the ultimate trap of where we can't get out. And I actually think that they are losing all over the place, but it's bit by bit, little by little, and it's not apparent to a lot of people. And it's not apparent because they're seeing it on the surface level, and they hear the narratives that have come out of our politicians and the banks and all of this, and they take that as gospel. They take that as literal, that, this is going to happen because they planned it, or because they said it, or because, people are in fear of the narrative. People jump every time you see some bad news come out about the next, EMP attack, or the cyber attack, or they're bringing out these draconian regulations that are going to take our freedoms away. And that creates or perpetuates the fear, which further immobilizes people to do anything about it, which plays perfectly into the hands of allowing them to create exactly what they said. So for us, we're literally bailing out, if you like, of that ship, because if we stay on that ship, we're going to go down with it. It's like the proverbial Titanic analogy. We're just gonna stay on the ship and listen to the band until they basically can't play anymore. And so to me, it takes a lot of courage to actually buck the system, like what we're trying to do. And but the thing is that we're stuffed if we just play along, because every time, as it got explained to me the other day, every time we continually play along with what they want us to do, we're reinforcing the very system that we're trying to get out of. So what I mean by that is, every time we're like consenting to this and that, every time we spend our money at the cartels, in the cartel shops and the cartel services and all that, every time we pay our full amount of tax, every time we go along as a good little employee. I know a lot of people are not employees here, but all the employees, wage earners, even self-employed like me, we're just enabling them to increase their power. And and then they encroach upon us with more rates, more fees and charges, and the inflation. The inflation is a tax, and the inflation is asset stripping us silently. And how it works is if you imagine, as they debase their currency through debt and interest, fractional reserve, and all of that, as they suck the value out of the dollar, that is what causes the prices to increase. But the money that is so therefore that obviously reduces our purchasing power, and that keeps us stuck on the wheel. But that money doesn't disappear into nothingness. It's not like just the prices rise and, you know, that's the end of it. It's not. What is happening is the money is being transferred silently to the assets. And who are the biggest asset holders in the world? The central banks, BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard, through their parent subsidiary model, the pyramidal model. It reaches right down to about all everyday stores and companies here, even in New Zealand and Australia. We are in there's a whole chain going down from, and BlackRock are extending into our KiwiSaver, they're extending into our pension funds, they're extending everywhere. So as they are huge asset holders, yeah, why is it that the asset prices are going up all the time? They are the beneficiary of the falling dollar and the inflation. So see that as a silent wealth transfer that has been going on for decades and decades and decades. And now we have crypto, we have some cryptos that are very deflationary. And I'm going to go into this in on Wednesday in way more depth, to really try and pull it apart and actually show people how Bitcoin is really leading the way on this. I have kind of gone full circle with Bitcoin. I started out in Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I built up a bit of a nest egg. And then I listened to a lot of the naysayers and the FUD and that, and I kind of thought Bitcoin, you know, when it reached like 45,000, I started to go, uh-oh, it's too high, I got to get out. And I listened to the fact that they were going to take it down and it was going to zero, and the miners are in China and it's energy consumptive and that's not sustainable. Yeah, I even bought into some of that crap. And I was just like, now I realize at a much, much deeper level that we could make money in these other tokens we're in. I'm not, XRP and the ISO tokens are in a different category, and I can talk about those as a separate thing. They've got amazing use case, and I haven't gone away from that. But what I'm including in my thesis is that Bitcoin could be the last crypto standing. Not the last, but it'll be the solid rock that will store the value of all our gains and all the other cryptos. And, you know, like I say, there will be others. I think XRP will be a global payment, and that utility will keeps that one in the forefront. But a lot of other tokens are going to get swept away in this sort of if you like, the cannibalization of crypto. You cannot have 20,000 cryptos all viable in the world we're moving into. You can't. There's going to be, obviously there's a lot of competition between each one, and there will be one or two that will probably win in that category or that area, and all the other dozens that are trying to compete or follow along will get wiped. And you're going to see this across the board. So I reckon the whole crypto industry will be whittled down to a few hundred cryptos. And that's a huge drop from 20,000+ that we've got today. So there's going to be a lot of things going on, obviously, in the world in the next few years, leading up to 2030, which is a target date for these United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And you can see that as kind of, that's where they planted their flag, that they're going to try and have this major agenda. They've got sort of pretty much complete or well down the track to completion. And we cannot give them that free ride. We cannot give them the free ride for those of us who are awake to what's happening. And one of the ways they're going to do that and achieve that, how we're going to be renters of everything, is through this financial system. It's just, and really the only thing that's really standing in the way is crypto, and particularly a few specific ones that stand out, like Bitcoin. And there's a few others that will be, I think very fundamentally blocking what they're trying to do. And I'm going to explain this in a bit more depth. Some of those crypto look like they're actually facilitating the existing system. There are a lot of cryptos that are right in the middle between what they call Web 2, our current internet system, and Web 3, which is full decentralization. And I see a lot of people say, well, I don't want to do anything to do, I don't want to have anything to do with any crypto that's got anything to do with the old system, or where, some of these big established financial behemoths are kind of participating in. I want to be fully decentralized, or I want to be fully private, like Monero. And I just want to jump out of that and straight into a privacy coin. And that's all well and good. But the thing is, I think they might be stranding themselves in there, or they might be making that play a little too early. And why I think that is because the transition from where we are now to where we're going it actually needs the existing system and the liquidity that's in there, particularly the liquidity, the money. The money flows need to fill our bags as well as, well, yes, filling some of their bags, but it's filling ours. But if the technology is fundamentally still creating good things, that it's like, instead of like trying to jump from A to Z, you got to go through B, C, D, and E. And the sensible way is to go all over the stepping stones, rather than trying to make the giant leap and ending up falling into the chasm, falling into the black hole, and where you can be easily picked off. And so what I'm saying is that we have to move with the transition, and it means we might be aligned with some projects that may seem too close, you could say, to the existing establishment. But that's how we're actually going to get where we're going, because we take what is left of the system, we take what's left, and particularly the liquidity, even though the fiat might be losing its value, it can still be converted from a low base currency into a higher valued currency in the form of crypto, because it's getting adopted and because it's getting used as a key medium or lever between the old and the new. So I'm trying to divulge something that's quite hard to portray. It's very subtle. There's a lot of nuances in there. I've spent countless hours thinking about this, and it's like playing the art of war. You've got to let your enemy, you don't let your enemy know exactly all your cards. You don't let your enemy know that that they are trying to fuck us over, right? You don't sort of, you got to play your hand and play along. And they say, your enemy's enemy is actually your friend. And that's why certain banks and billionaires and big hedge funds are actually looking like they're on our side in this. So they are realizing that the central banks and some of these big three-letter agencies are no longer their friend. And they are, so we are in this really weird period. And so, it's no good seeing this area as black and white. I think that is a mistake myself. There's many shades of gray and and it's the whole rainbow spectrum. And so what I'm saying is, and I can go more into this, I can go and give you more specifics as to what I'm actually doing and how I'm constructing my portfolio so that you can understand. I'm more than prepared to divulge exactly how I'm doing this. But basically, in a nutshell, what I'm doing is I'm putting some bets on the current narrative. Now, narrative is everything. And narrative and marketing of these tokens means that you can ride that wave and then you can exit that, and then you can jump into the next wave that's going to arise, or eventually we sort of wave jump until we end up in a fully parallel decentralized economy with deflation. We're truly deflationary crypto that is going to put more money in our pocket. It will collapse the whole manipulation of the market. It will bring asset prices down to the floor, and that includes our property, right? Property prices is really just another product of this manipulation. They pump money into the banks. The banks then promote the mortgages to us. They then reel you in, and then they pop the bubble, and then everyone's in stress, and then you have to sell their property under a mortgagee sale, and then they keep doing that over and over again. And we've got to get out of that mouse wheel. And so what I'm saying is that we've kind of got to, basically wave hop until the market matures to such a degree, and we see that there's all these other people around us, and then it cannot be stopped when there's too many people participating in a decentralized way. And if deflation is literally what deflation will do, it does the reverse of inflation. So instead of sucking money out of our pocket and into their assets, it's bringing money into our pocket, and it's blowing the debt up to massive proportions. It's not, the inflation is allowing them to always, even though they're starting to lose control of it now, the inflation is a way for them to keep eroding the debt, because as the money gets debased, a debt-based system loves inflation because it keeps the debt manageable. And a deflationary situation is going to do the exact opposite. And I know it's going to hurt people who are very invested in the current system. And there are people who are going to see their price of their property plunge, but the price of everything around us is going to plunge as well. It'll all become relative, and the whole transition will be a little painful. But then once that worst is over, we will be in a completely different reality. And then when you add an AI, because AI is inherently, technology in itself is inherently deflationary as well. And when AI comes in with, especially obviously the decentralized AI that is based on a blockchain, so that's how it gets its decentralization. The AI is built on a blockchain that is base layer decentralized. The coding is totally decentralized, can't mess with that. That's its foundation. Then the whole world is going to be run on such an efficient and low-cost way that everything will come into a new balance, and it's going to suck all the life out of the hedge funds. The centralized controllers then will be done. I mean, look, this might take 20, 30 years, but it's starting now. And we can at least make it better for the future generations. That's kind of general thesis. And I've been doing a lot of research on this and listening to basically philosophers over how Bitcoin, they're they're presenting their philosophical view on how this deflation can affect society in a massive way. And then we will have an economy then that's really people-based. And then it will bring everyone back into community. We will be literally weaning ourselves off like a heroin addict is weaning itself off heroin. This need to always try to get ahead and, you know, grabbing hold of the money or the asset under this pressure of if we don't FOMO, you know, the FOMO in and all that sort of stuff. So it will change the way we approach everything, not just money. It's gonna mean that everything will become inherently cheap and we'll have way more time on our hands, and we could probably work 15, 20 hours a week max. And then all the rest of our time is going to be devoted to what we really love. And this is going to create so much more energy. It's going to give us all this energy is going to get freed up because we're not the mouse on the wheel anymore. So you can see how, you know, where this could lead. And a lot of people don't see this because they're so invested in the past. They're so invested in their beliefs. They're so caught in the web of the matrix that they can't even see the woods for the trees. And I've always been fascinated with how money and how systems and technology can actually be used to benefit society. And it's been a long time for me to really get my head around it, but I'm starting to see it now. I'm starting to see it. And we are seeing the chaos. The chaos that we're witnessing now is simply the effect from the fact that the cracks in their system have widened to such a degree that they are starting to panic a little. And look, the people that are in charge have not a clue what's really going on. They don't understand crypto or technology or AI or, you know, these idiots, the puppets there that are in government who are basically there to, you know, maintain this. They don't have a clue what's going on. They just take their orders, and so they're going to, I think, find themselves in deep shit soon when enough of the people realize how useless they are and how they're not for us, and it's already happening. And I think eventually it's going to get to the point where they're just going to, you know, implode upon themselves and really start falling on their own sword in dominoes. So, you know, so basically coming back to sort of crypto per se, they're trying things like, you know, I know what they're angling for. They're angling to make it legal for us to self-custody our Bitcoin, our crypto, not just Bitcoin. This whole thing in the States with Elizabeth Warren and the anti-crypto bill that she's got is like, it's so lame and so crazy that, you know, it's just bound to fail. How are they going to stop hundreds of, you know, in America, there's already 60 million people in crypto. And it's got to the point now where a very pro-crypto lawyer, actually the guy who promoted the XRP the lawsuit from the people, there's a special name for it, I forget now, John Deaton, he's now running against Elizabeth Warren. And he's going in there as a pro-crypto, pro-freedom, and he's completely out of he's not come from the political scene. He's just throwing himself in there. And I think he's actually a decent sort of guy who could shake things up quite a lot and over there. And that will ripple out to the rest of the world. And I think that Elizabeth Warren is totally underestimated how many people really are very passionate about decentralization and their crypto and their livelihood, because this is about survival for a lot of them. It's absolute survival. This is their chance to try and break away and break free. So we're seeing that, and they talk about money laundering, but she's dropped little seeds that show to me that they're definitely going to try to come for those of us holding our private keys in our wallets. Because she said things like, we've got to know where the money is coming from and where it's going to. And it's got to be for everyone. And they make this case that Hamas and all these other terrorist organizations are doing it. So, that's the lead-in. The fact is that Hamas and the, Palestine, they're not using it. They don't use it because it's too transparent. And they don't. There's way more money laundering going on in the dollar than there is in crypto. So I think that just the pure facts are going to unseat her. But we've got to, if we know what this narrative's about and we know what's coming in advance, we can just sort of better mentally prepare for all the young, the beginners out there who don't understand crypto. They're going to be very buffeted by that, and then it ends up in social media, and social media is a great way to breed the illusion that this is true. They say if it's shared enough times, it becomes true. And that's classic with crypto and social media. So much FUD and so much, so lack of nuances and subtleties and context that the argument gets completely drowned and just, a whole load of rubbish. So, so basically also Charles Hoskinson, who created Cardano, he's come out and warned people. And he's a bit of a grumpy old guy sometimes. He can be a bit sort of, grouchy sort of guy, but he's a genius and he really understands the threat that is coming from within crypto, particularly around stable coins. I didn't know it, but Cardano has resisted integrating the Cardano token, the ADA token, with any centralized stable coin. And then he put out a video explaining why. And I thought, wow, he really does understand the threat, because what they're trying to do is take crypto over using centralized stable coins as the way to get in on the inside. And then they can act like a kind of CBDC where they can see all the trade, because you've got to use a stable coin to get in, you've got to use a stable coin to get out. And then what they can do is then they can see who's doing what that way via tracking the stable coin. And seeing it's because it's inherently all the stable coins except only a few. There's a few that are or in the works to be decentralized, but they're almost all centralized. And they're only one hairbreadth away from a CBDC. So this is another. And then on top of that, they're now putting out this narrative that USDT is still committing fraud, and they've kind of tolerated it because it's actually been supporting and propping up the US dollar, because they got $100 billion of bonds and US dollars to support their $100 billion market cap. So they've got $100 billion worth of stable coins out there. They're by far, in a way, the biggest stable coin. And there was a lot of talk that they were going to get taken out 2 or 3 years ago. It was getting really hysterical that USDT is going to go, and they're not backed at all, and they're doing all this nefarious stuff. And I think that was when the authorities in America were realizing, holy shit, they're making all this money, and it's upsetting our little agenda. And then I think what's happened, they've done a deal with the Fed, and the Fed has said, okay, well, as long as you buy dollars or you buy bonds, which is basically their loan, if you like, against dollars, then we'll let you survive. And so they've done that, and now there's no loyalty at that level. When they are done with them, they'll cast them aside like a piece of trash. And I think we might be getting close to that point. So there could be a black swan within the crypto around a stable coin. I'm not saying it will be. I'm just putting it out there that we just got to be really cautious. And then you got USDC, which is the preferred one. That's the US regulated one. They call them Circle, from the Circle Foundation. And they are doing deals all over the place to try and, become the key global stable coin of preference. But they're subtly bringing in all this real hardcore centralized kind of, I suppose they're putting it into the code, or they'll be working it in somehow, and they'll be basically applying CBDC type principles bit by bit. And I know they already started, and I'm sure that eventually Ethereum, well, I'm not sure, but I'd say that I wouldn't be surprised if Ethereum go down the same track, because JP Morgan is behind that, and he can't stand, he can't stand Bitcoin. He still can't stand Bitcoin because it's deflationary. It comes back to my original idea of why he hates Bitcoin, is because that one token alone could upend their whole plan. And then the rest of the good cryptos that are decentralized could go join in, and then they've lost. So they're playing, it's a very fine line. It's a very fine line between, us staying afloat and making money out of the crypto, and also them trying to detonate it and throw a few bombs in there to try and, divert us or upset us. And so we're just going to have to be super careful. Use hard wallets and cold wallets if you can, or find wallets that you're absolutely sure are decentralized. Keep your money always away from anything centralized, like centralized exchanges, number one. And then other wallets like crypto.com, Nexo, these are centralized wallets, and centralized. And in the case of crypto.com, it's also an exchange and a wallet. And so we've kind of just got to really double down on our security, especially as we're moving into a time where there could be like a cyber attack at any time as well. So what else is happening in the trends that are happening in crypto? There's a lot of things happening that are happening at a development level that gives me real cause for hope. And all these things that are happening, it's like starting to link in with other cool things. And you got people like Charles Hoskinson speaking out and warning us this is all building into a snowball that won't be able to be stopped. And they've got this other technology called ZK Sync or ZK Snark, and it's providing incredible privacy for and it can be adapted so it's privacy and transparency together. So you're not always so it's not total privacy, because if it's complete privacy, the existing establishment have got really big on complete privacy for them. So it can easily switch to, if people are getting too much privacy, they then get too much power as well. And so I sort of rather tend towards privacy for our identification is key. Privacy for that key information, but transparency in transactions and transacting and using the Explorer so that we can, the Explorer is like a search engine for that blockchain. And that's the great leveler, because if anyone's trying to be manipulative, it stands out like dog's balls, and basically they can't hide. They hide behind an address, but anyone can find that person through the wallet address. But 99% of the transactions from the people are just trying to do their transacting. They're not trying to launder money or launder drugs or whatever. So that's the cabal. That's their game. They throw that, they're doing that, and then saying that they got to clamp down on anti-money laundering or whatever. The other ones who are doing the money laundering. So that's why they need absolute privacy, and they don't want transparency. So people have got to realize that us wanting to be totally private can be an overreaction to the current system, where we've got to think logically, how would it be in a perfectly functioning, decentralized people's economy? It would be transparent, and we would protect our ID with absolute privacy, and that's what ZK can do. And other technologies that it's been refined and developed and moving at such pace. And then with AI, the AI now, like I said, is being developed in a decentralized way on chain, because OpenAI and what Sam Altman is doing and Microsoft and Google are all in on their AI, completely centralized, completely programmed with their woke bullshit, completely under their control. It's not on a blockchain or certainly not on a decentralized blockchain. And then I see people now that they're trying to use the new Google, I think it's called, there's a new Google AI out, and they asked about white people. White people don't exist. It didn't have an answer for how to for a white person, and so that's just completely ridiculous. And so once you're building AI in a decentralized way on chain, where the code is ensuring that it stays that way, it's automated in that way, then that's going to really throw the cat among the pigeons as to their centralized, agenda there. And so, it really comes down to centralization versus decentralization, and basically ensuring that we've got technology that's supporting of decentralization, not just in finance, but everywhere. Everything gets linked up, everything's connected, and just connecting the chains up that are decentralized together. So people can have decentralized social media, decentralized transacting, decentralized AI if they want to use that, decentralized storage. I mean, having all our storage on Amazon, or that's not good. So this is why these narratives are coming really big about storage, about decentralized physical infrastructure network that includes AI. It also includes storage and things like telco businesses and router systems. They can create that all on the blockchain. Now we can have your own modem based on the blockchain in your house, that's connected up on chain to everybody else. Helium, the Helium project, Google mapping. Instead of Google mapping, they've got mapping that can basically have it all on chain in a decentralized way so that you're not getting tracked, but you can use the GPS without fear that Google or Apple are finding out where you're going. So everything needs to go on chain in a decentralized technology. And that is happening. It's happening. And then they're linking these different blockchains that do different things together. So it creates a whole ecosystem. Another big narrative is around real world assets. And BlackRock stated that, we're going to tokenize everything. He said that. Larry Fink said that. And I thought, well, why would they be so keen on that? And it's all part of the great taking. It's all part of having everything. Again, they're going to do it in a centralized way. And then all our assets can be just then zapped or taken or dissolved or whatever. So I love the tokenization idea, but again, it has to be done decentralized. So that's the real fundamental battle, is at that level, is what is the protocol? The protocol determines the outcome. The protocol is the code, and the code has to be done in a deflationary, decentralized way. Otherwise, it's not going to serve us. So it's not just about being on the blockchain. It's about being on the right blockchain and being connected to the right projects, tokens, coins, organizations that have our best interests at heart. And there are a lot of people out there that got our best interests at heart. So basically, we're at that sort of inflection point now in the world where something is going to have to give, or something is going to have to happen. And if a black swan type event does happen, it means that actually that'll be coming from central command. And you can be sure that means that if they feel the need to do that, that means that they are losing. They are losing the battle. So they'll only do that when that's at that point. And I actually think that we're getting very close, whether it's later this year or early next year. It's got to come at some stage, because the dissolution of the old system isn't going to suddenly stop. It's already underway. Pluto is now gone into Aquarius, which is like a 250-year move that's mind-bogglingly far-reaching on a humanitarian level. They say we have a plutocracy. And isn't it interesting? It's got the word Pluto in it. So their plutocracy is being dissolved by Pluto. And Aquarius is the planet, the sign of technology, funny that, humanity, innovation, a flowering of freedom. I mean, it's pretty telling. That is incredible, really, when you think about it. And Pluto breaks up. What does it break up? It breaks up old archaic systems. And while it was in Capricorn was all about plutocracy. Well, it was all about centralized systems, archaic systems that served a centralized control. And you could say probably a lot of us were probably quite happy about that, or it didn't bother us because we kind of profited from the system in our own ways. We got ahead. We built, a lot of us, managed to get good jobs and nice houses and had money and had a relative amount of freedom. And then when they decided to rug pull us, especially when 2009 came along, that was the first big rug pull. But we saw shocks before that, the dot-com crash. There were others, economic shocks. But then when COVID came along, that was the big sign that they are getting ready to implement their grand agenda, the great taking. In other words, making us the exit collateral, the exit liquidity, all our assets and all our property as the exit collateral for their debt. I'm not talking about the 34 trillion that is supposedly what the government owns in America. It's the 1.2 quadrillion of derivatives that are underneath that. That sort of are the big problem. And it's getting to the point where it could blow open and take down a major bank, and then it's all on. And then that's when you're going to see resets and EBSs and, pulling the plug on the internet and stuff. And it's just not far away. It's not far away. Listen to David Rogers-Webb, and he outlays it. He outlines it and how this devious plan has been going on using the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code. And they've changed the law. They've just changed the law. They've put the final piece in place. They now have it legal that they can steal our assets. Initially for ones where there's stocks and shares, and where you have property where there's a debt owing, a mortgage. But the ultimate plan is eventually to be able to take everything, even if it's debt-free. So, this is another reason why we want to be out of debt, because that gives you another line of defense before, they'll collapse at some stage. It doesn't matter when is this agenda going to fall over? When they've taken half our property, or when they've taken all the indebted property, or the shares, or are we just going to let them take everything? I mean, that's where it's coming down to. We're coming down to the last final back straight of this agenda that's been in play for at least 110 years since the Federal Reserve was created. That was what they're created for, to enact this, basically, and to try and, enslave the world into conspiratorial, you might think, but it's fact. It absolutely is fact. Yeah, so Alex, I'll be more than happy to share my strategy. In fact, we'll make a presentation on that based on the context of what I just shared about a strategy of how we can transition, sort of dodging the bullets and going, like the frog across the lilies across the pond, rather than trying to jump from here to there and ended up drowning, which I think that a lot of people will be jumping ship into, from the frying pan to the fire. I can see it now. There will be a lot of collateral damage because people will just react with high emotion of fear and anger and all that, and they're just going to end up slamming up against a wall or falling under the water. Whereas we can be smarter than that. And we do have to have a quite militant almost mindset about it, because we are in a war, let's face it. So, excuse me, I'm just fighting with my dog here. He's obviously hungry. So yeah, just on that note, if anyone, oh, cute. Oh, but look, meet the other doggy. Cute. So, does anyone wanna, you could ask a question or anything I said, I hope I haven't kind of tried to, I don't want to trigger you. I'm wanting to just get the information out so you understand what I'm saying, and so that we can act with, with, with balance and harmony. Well, it's hard to be harmonious, but act with some sense of, know, balance between the physical and the spiritual, and try and walk the middle line.
It it can be quite daunting, but it's one thing to be informed. Um, and for me, it's when you talk about technology, whatever it is, 5G, blockchain, a lot of these technologies have got good and bad applications that can be put on them. So you talk about 5G and it's dangerous. 5G could be a really interesting technology for the good as well as the bad stories. And it's interesting for me to try to get to understand both sides. And it's interesting what you're saying about how do you create a system. So if the Kabbalah create, or whatever you call them, are creating this system so that everything is open, it means they're open as well. So if you're watching what they're doing, then you try to predict what are they doing and including for themselves so that they can get through it. And you can't introduce a complete system because then they are in the complete system. So you just got to sit back a little bit and say, what are they up to, and just try to stay astride of it. And I think you're doing a great job, Tony. There's so much going on, and I'm permanent state of bewilderment at the moment, trying to go through it. And these little snippets are really interesting, just to keep the perspective up and to keep your information as up to date as you can. And it's changing daily. I'm interested in some of the names you've mentioned. I'll have a look at some of those because they're quite interesting. But yeah,
Sure.
thanks for that as always.
Oh, you're welcome. And I know it can be daunting. I mean, I was very daunted, when 2009 came along, was that was what really woke me up to the whole financial skullduggery, because I
Yeah,
got significantly smashed in that. I thought I was doing really well, and I had four houses. I was supposedly doing all the right things. I had a business that was supposedly doing okay and everything else. And then literally in the space of weeks, I was basically, I was screwed. And so I've been sort of clawing my way back since then. And there haven't been many weeks gone by where I haven't thought about, well, what am I going to do, or how can I deal with this, or how can we work our way out of this trap? It seems like a trap that we've kind of, it's been laid for us, and it had a lot of sweet temptations that we fell for. And
yeah,
yeah, I just spent all my time realizing that, what's going to really serve me and what's not going to serve me now. And I'm being quite direct and quite objective about it now, instead of being wishy-washy and and trying to make excuses for others or myself, or you know we can't afford the luxury of any negativity right now.
the,
It's so,
the other sorry, I was just gonna say a lot of some of the projects we're involved in are startups. They're seeds, and you've
yes,
got
they
to
are.
you've got to sit back a bit and try to let the slack off the reins, because people are learning, they're making mistakes, and they're doing their best to resolve them. And there will be some casualties. I believe we're always looked after at some level. We're always looked after, but you can't. As soon as there's a slip, you can't just pile in and start punching and pulling people to bits. They're human. They're trying to do the best they can, and you've just got to give them some slack to do it. You can offer them useful information, some stuff that you see that they may not see because they're so close to it. If you've got the streams of communication to get back up there, And that's some of my criticism of some of these things. But again, they're startups, and startups started by techies. They're not traditionally great communicators. So you've also got to allow, where's their central skill set? Where do you expect the gaps to be? And then if you can help without being negative, feed them the information. If they get time to use it, let them use it. So you've just got to be discerning with where you spend your energy.
Well said. It sounded to me like you're also describing like 1,000 Club as a perfect case in point.
Maybe that, yeah.
I was just
Yeah.
thinking that.
And look, and myriad of others that we've kind of seen come and go. And even crypto itself is like one big giant startup kind of incubator kind of field.
Yep.
And then we've got Six Society, we've got others out there that are trying to work their way out of this matrix as well. And we sort of jump onto their coattails thinking, well, this could be the mecca that we're looking for, the savior. And then they get taken down the gurgler, or they're just plain one of them. They're just basically greedy, corrupt, or whatever. And now we're wising up a lot more now, and we're realizing that, and if we can see these failures or these issues as grist for our mill to keep us pushing on, if we don't lose heart and hope over these, then I think we will make it. That's absolutely assured. But it's a battle. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
And,
It's just not for the faint-hearted.
yeah. At the highest level, these are just experiences.
Yeah,
That's all they are.
that's right. And what you said before, Alex, like trust that it will work out. That's what we have to do, is have that trust and belief. And it might not work out in the way we expect it to, but if we trust that things are going to be okay, we're always looked after.
Yeah.
Believe
I
that.
totally agree. I
Might
think
be
that
totally
this is where
different way than we think.
the spiritual side gets so underrated in life. You know,
Yeah.
it gets maligned like everything else. It's been twisted around. But ultimately, if you know who you are and you've got your connection to divine source, there's nothing much that can stop you when you know that. When you know you are connected to that and you are that. That is a hugely, but that takes sometimes, lifetime for people to
Yeah.
even,
Yeah.
A few lifetimes, yeah.
yeah. But this is the lifetime now where we can at least start to really, enable that, allow that aspect of us to actually come into us and let it be our motivator and our driver and our kind of protection. It is like a protection and guidance principle. It's like the spiritual GPS. And I'm starting to discover that because I've had some quite incredible things happen lately where as soon as I just tap into that, boom, exactly what I need appears. It's been quite amazing. And when I've been really under the pump, and I've been under the pump quite more than this year than I have in a long time. And then I have these massive breakthroughs where shit, I feel like I've just expanded and I'm
It might be really useful, Tony, to whoever's interested, some of the more spiritual aspects of what you're experiencing and how you're relaxing, going quiet, and accessing that connection, which gives you the little voice that isn't your normal voice. So it's intuition. It'd be useful to kind of share some of those experiences if you have the time at some point.
yeah. I
Maybe.
could share them in a way where I'd have to think about how I would actually communicate them, because
Okay.
a lot of them are experiences that I've had within, and it's quite hard to
Okay.
explain.
Just a thought. Yeah.
But in saying that, I believe metaphor, talking with metaphors and talking in archetypes and analogies could be a good way of expressing that.
Okay. Okay.
So
Because again, you see those. For me, I've told you this before. My theory of thirds, where there are the people that know what's going on and they're in it, and but detached from it. There are people in the middle that can go either way, and there are people at the bottom that are just not seeing it. What, as well as telling people this is what's going on, which is I don't believe is the way to do it, is to show them ways to experience what's going on, and that's more of the spiritual stuff. And it isn't necessarily sharing your own process of doing it, but just giving people some clues of how to step back and detach and be at peace, so they can experience some of these things going on without being under stress and under pressure.
yeah,
Because
sure.
there's a lot of change, and particularly for me, the younger ones. I'm watching my kids throw themselves into new houses and new mortgages because they need the house, and I'm saying just relax, take your time, go with the heart. Don't worry about other people buying houses and you feeling left out. And I've seen my kids, without being dad all the time, oh dad, just showing them little bits of pieces to give them a little bit of perspective and move them from the bottom ground of sheep up into the curious in between sector, at least. I don't know if that made sense.
That makes a lot of sense. I see the same happening in well, I don't have children, but in Jenny's children, I see that
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
very
And
much
then
so.
also let go, because if they're not wanting to change, then that's their stuff they have to learn and go through. So do that, but then let go of the outcome. Like, if people don't want to change or grow or learn,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's just where they're at. And there's nothing wrong with that, really. It's just that's where they are and that's where they need to be for their, I suppose, soul's journey.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Letting go of the outcome and letting go of judgment is probably
Yeah.
the two
Yeah.
biggies. That if we can overcome that, then there's nothing that stands in the way of that or self-imposed resistance that can then allow you to receive whatever you
Yeah.
need. Yeah, awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much for coming. I've got to speak to Gerald now, actually, because we're by the way, we're deep in lots of ideas. We're getting things going to be completely revamped within DeFi Freedom. We're going to go in a different structure where we're going to we give more information once we get it sort of resolved as to how, but we've got definitely, I'm getting some really good advice from a friend who's a business analyst, and he's been an entrepreneur for a long time, and yeah, we're building on that. It's quite exciting, actually, because we can make it much more inclusive to everybody and build the community and just present the information with beginners in mind, and more advanced stuff, so we can better way to take people from where they are and take them along on the journey, but breaking the modules down into real bite-sized chunks, having a do it yourself for those who want to do it themselves, and standing with them and doing it with them in a group setting, with lots of little modules. And then there's the people who really want extra help. We can do a hold their hand, and we'll still do the bigger macro views, and we can do the individual specific trainings as well that's needed, and try and knit it together. It is quite challenging for a lot of people in my circle to, they feel like they're an idiot, and so they don't want to try, they don't want to jump in, or they're so scared of the technology. So we're kind of like got to tailor it to what people need, not what we think they want. That's where we're coming from.
Very sound.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think that then our real secret sauce here is as we grow a very strong community, we can all, it's not just our community, it's your community, and we can all use that as a means to offer up other things as a collective. I mean, to me, that would be the ultimate. But it's just starting to happen in a smaller way, just with us
Mm.
and the offshoots that are forming a little bit with some of the other projects we're in and that. But you know, I think that if we build it up more, we will reach more of a critical mass where we can, you know, everyone can offer resources, and we can, you know, when the shit really hits the fan, we can at least know we've got our connections, and we can help each other that way.
I'm up for a conversation around that, Tony, if you wanted to have a chat, because for me, it's always interesting when you have a business and you create a vehicle to help your business to run better, you can then take that vehicle out of that particular context and apply it into different places, because the vehicle and the process is where the energy is, rather than the context that you put it into. So, and you and I both know places where a similar process could be applied to make that other business so much better.
Yeah.
So once you've done that, it then becomes another thing for you to take and share and grow.
Absolutely. Yeah, no,
Cool.
that's
Nice.
great. I'm always up for a discussion and collaboration and you know, sharing, and yeah, I'm always up for that. It's really
Cool.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, thanks everyone. I appreciate your ears and your time, and yeah, we'll talk soon.
Cool. Cheers, Tony. Thanks a lot. See you soon.
See ya.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Blair. Cheers.
See you, mate.
See ya.
Cheers. Bye.
See ya. Thank you, Fenna. I appreciate you too, and everybody else.
I got the video. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Just give me a second. I've just finished presenting and I'm really, really dehydrated. I'll be back in a second. Just gonna get some water. Thanks for that. Oh, I was just so dry. Could barely speak. I had a Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I had a good chat to my friend, my business analyst guy, and we spent about an hour going over what we sort of been talking about. But he came up with some really good ideas that I think need some more detailed things that I thought were really quite useful. So do you want me to sort of fill you in on that now, or do you want to hit me with what you've got in mind? Or
Yeah. You can fill me in, and then we can work on that.
so I'll show you what I'll do is I will, oops, I'm still recording from